Hey, thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming to the Fairmede Hilltop Neighborhood Council meeting. It's our September 2021 edition, and as you can see, we're still in COVID. Mandatory masks indoors, so we're behaving ourselves. I want to thank everybody for coming, and if everybody got one of these, if you didn't, we've got some more over here on the table to the right. And I just wanted to let you know that the Richmond Police Department's been defunded a little bit, quite a bit, and they're shorthanded, so we typically have our police report, our police officer, beat officer come in and give the crime stats, but they're all on call right now, so unfortunately we don't have a police officer. The person that was here from the district, from the schools, he won't be able to make it. He's got a fever, so he called me, and unfortunately he may have COVID. He's going to be tested. And then our principal is running late, so I could ask Don Gosney to come up here and speak about the schools in place of Demetrio Gonzalez. Don, if you don't mind.
Be happy to, thank you. I'll get paid for this, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Up until recently, I was the chair of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, which oversees the what's left of $700 million worth of school bonds to rebuild and repair all of our schools. And in 2015, the district created a facilities master plan. They had almost 100 public meetings where they talked to the parents, the teachers, even the students about the schools themselves. Not what was being taught in the schools, but the physical schools. What was their conditions? And they used all this criteria. They weighted some things. Okay, yes, the age was weighted higher, for instance, than the color of the paint in the bathroom, kind of stuff. But then they came up with a ranking list to decide which schools were going to get the funding above others. Well, even back in 2015, while they finally finished it and got approved in 2016, the goal was to update it every 5 years. Well, this is 5 years now. So they had what was called a prioritization committee made up of people from different organizations, school families, even students, to try to determine what were the important items to be listed on the criteria, and then the staff and put a weight to those. They came up with a list that was a little bit different than what they had in 2015. It came before the school board for their approval. The school board didn't like the process, so they refused to approve of the new facilities master plan ranking list. All that they would approve were the top 3 schools that were on there. Kennedy High School moved up 11 spots, Richmond High School moved up 7 spots, and Steve went down a spot. Okay, but number 4 on that list is Highland Elementary School, your school up here. It doesn't mean it's not going to be rebuilt. You have to understand the process. First they have to sell the bonds. Okay, we approved Measure R in March of last year, and they are just now selling the bonds for that. Then they have to go out and get find architects. They have to find contractors. Just the plans themselves will take about a year to develop the plans. And then they have to go to the Division of Architectural Standards in Sacramento, which, like almost every other government agency, is extremely backlogged. And that could take easily another 6 to 9 months for them to approve the architectural standards. So don't be worried that Highland is being shoved out of the process. It's just going to take a little while before it happens. One of the other things that is important is that state law says that the district can only tax the taxpayers a certain amount per year, $68 for every $100,000 valuation of your property. And so what they have to do is they actually have to pay off some of the bond measures from, say, 8 or 10 years ago to free up room to sell more bonds right now. It's a long process. But they said they will be rebuilding Highland Elementary School, or they should be. I'm not going to make promises for an elected body because sometimes they don't ask my opinion on these kinds of things. I said, but it should happen. But if you want to make sure it happens, talk to your school board members. Talk to all of them. You know, Trustee Demetrio Gonzalez Hoy is your elected representative for this area. But all the other 4 trustees are also sworn to represent each and every one of us, not just the people in their district. Even Demetrio has to represent the people where I live in central Richmond. He has to represent the people up in Kensington and out in Hercules. So, you know, lobby the other trustees as well. Make sure they all understand. You want Highland rebuilt. Okay? The current plan is to build the new Highland at a different site than where it is right now. There are seismic issues, there's land issues where it's at right now. And it actually saves many millions of dollars by building it someplace else because you don't have to bring in all these portables because there's no place to actually put the portables at the current Highland site that is safe. I mean, for Pinole Valley High School, it cost $8 million for the portables. You don't need nearly that many for an elementary school, but it still costs millions of dollars. So by building it at a different site, it is less disruptive to the current Highland students and teachers, and it gets built a lot sooner at a much lower cost. So, does anybody have any questions about things going on in the school district or the rebuilding of the schools that I might be able to answer? Now, I'm not a trustee, so I can't answer some of the questions, but I do know a little bit about the bond program and the rebuilding of the schools. First off, back there.
Where's the new Highland School going to be built at?
What is it?
Groom.
What is that? Is that Harmon? I mean, the old Harmon Knolls?
Yeah, Harmon Knolls.
Harmon Knolls. Sorry. I don't know this area quite as well, so. Yeah. Eric?
When's Kennedy going to get rebuilt?
You're starting to sound like Trustee Audrey Christian. That's all he was asking about last night. When are we going to rebuild Kennedy High School? Well, they are putting it out for bid right now. That was announced at last night's school board meeting. Okay, but it's still, before they break ground, you're talking about 2 years. And by breaking ground, at Kennedy High School, if any of you know Kennedy High School, it's got a very large building right up front. Now, here's a little story. When I was in middle school, I lived out in Concord, and our honor society went out to the Bay Model out in Sausalito. Back then, the only way to get from Highway 80 to the bridge was right down Cutting Boulevard. Okay, we're on the bus, we're going by, we see Kennedy High School, which was brand new at the time, literally brand new. And even though we were honor society students, and I was a bright boy, we were all kind of geographically deprived. Yeah. We knew San Quentin was out somewhere around there. We saw Kennedy High School, we were absolutely sure that had to be San Quentin. It looked like a prison. And all of a sudden I see the sign that says Kennedy High School. Uh-oh, I'm going to school there in a couple of months. And anyway, their goal right now, they have already rebuilt the science building. They pretty much rebuilt the gymnasium area. So they're not going to be spending money on those. But they plan to tear down the front building. What bothers me on that is Eric and I both went there more than 50 years ago. And it's just recently that they finally put an elevator in. At no small cost. Elevators are not cheap. Yeah, let's put the elevator in, now let's tear down that building. I said, wait a minute, can't we save the elevator? But they'll be tearing down that building and they'll be relocating the administrative part of the offices to the old arts building there. It's going to displace about 70% of the classrooms. And the big question is, what do you do with the students? They say we're talking about, well, let's move the students to the campus that Caliber Beta Charter School is using in the back. Well, that's a temporary campus for about 200 elementary school kids. You may have noticed elementary school kids are kind of small. High school kids are kind of big. All the drinking fountains are down low. All the toilets are down low. And plus, you got 200 elementary school kids, and you've got 800 or 900 high school kids. It's going to cost, again, it costs millions of dollars to house them there. And I fought hard to make sure that they were going to tear it down in January of this year. And I fought hard to make sure that you don't do that until you've sold the bonds, until you have a plan. My feeling is that as soon as you finish tearing down the building and sweep up the mess, next day the contractor comes in there and start rebuilding. Not a wait of a year or 2 or 3. Everything about that is bad. It's housing students at a temporary campus for 5 to 7 years. There's nothing good about that. But anyway, you got your hand back.
Yeah, my thing is, why can't they just remodel the damn buildings instead of tearing stuff down? That would be a lot less expensive and a lot quicker.
And they are doing that where they can. Kennedy High School, that building itself is seismically unsound. It literally is. The walkways have separated from the classrooms. So I mean, if you drop your book, it could fall down through the gap. What were you saying?
As long as they're doing that somewhere to save money, but...
Oh, they are left and right. They are left and right. I mean, because that's part of the reason for that facilities master plan. What is the condition of the school? You know, does it need to be rebuilt? Steege Elementary is a good example. First off, it's 78 years old, I believe. It's got dry rot. It's got black mold. It's got asbestos from floor to ceiling. It's got lead-based paint from floor to ceiling. There is no part of it that is salvageable. Okay, but some of these other schools, that's not the case. Okay, now Richmond High School is not going to be completely rebuilt either. Between Richmond High School and Kennedy High School, they've already spent about $65 million on rehabilitating. So you don't, they keep saying, well, we're going to tear down and rebuild a new Kennedy High School, a new Richmond High School. No, you're going to rebuild parts of it. I mean, you got to make a good point. And that's something that I always fought for, too. Do we have any other hands up? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you know, it's awfully curious that Pinole, Valley High, El Cerrito High, Deanza High, all of those schools in those areas, brand new, spanking new schools. The other areas, minorities live, you got mold, you got this, you can't do this, you can't do seismic. So you mean to tell me all those brand new schools, there are no seismic problems that and higher? It's disgusting. And that school has been in dire need of it. Should have been on at the top of the list. But you stand there telling people to be patient that things are going to happen. How much longer? How much longer? And for the property to be seismic unsafe, years ago, same with Vista. A lot of people wanted that real estate to build homes in the area. And the community fought against that. So my concern, and where do you plan to put highway? Is that up on Broome?
Yeah.
It's a lot, we're gonna put an element, see the crowd and just, see some kids get crowded into places. And other people in other areas, they get the top of the law. It's ridiculous, a lot of politics, a lot of bullshit, excuse my French.
And I agree with you 100%. I've been with the bond program since before it was actually started as a bond program in 1998. Now, El Cerrito High School, I need to make sure to point out this out. El Cerrito High School was built in 1936. I was with the building trades, and they wanted us to help pay for the bond programs, selling it to the voters.
State of the art, schools like a university.
All right, but now, they took us around to schools, and El Cerrito High School is one of them. El Cerrito was in such bad shape that if you were not an employee, if you were not a student, you were not allowed in the building. Even parents could not come in the building. Okay, because the school district's attorneys were saying, well, it's too high a liability. We had to look through the windows to see. But it was falling down. Let me finish this statement real quick. Can I finish my statement, please? Can I finish my statement, please?
He's just a messenger. Doesn't work for the school.
What I was going to tell him, he can stand there, don't address me, you can talk to everybody else, but I'm not dying with yourself. Okay?
He's just a messenger. He doesn't work for the district.
Whatever he's messenger, he's standing there giving a message on response.
Okay, I guess I'm mistaken on everything I'm saying, so conversation's over. I'm sorry.
And that's the way it goes sometimes. So again, if you guys know anybody that's wants to run for school or city council, please contact me. People are looking for good candidates. We need to change our current city council. They're using a lot of our money to do what they want to do instead of putting it back into services, and we need them to put the money back into our taxes back into city services to fix the streets and what have you. So I know several groups that are looking for candidates to help run for city council. So if you guys know anybody, just let me know. And apparently our principal from Highland Elementary wasn't able to make it tonight, and we brought Prologis in, the new owner of Hilltop Mall, to present them 150 backpacks for the kids at the elementary school. And I see that we have a few representatives from Prologis coming in right now. In the meantime, I wanted to let you know that they're doing a lot of things up there at the mall until they break ground. They want to have trunk or treat on Halloween evening. So I'll let them explain a little bit more. Eric, do you want to come up and say a few things?
Okay. Thank you, Arto. I think you can hear me. Thank you for having us. My name is Eric Zell. As you heard, I went to high school with Don. I live in Richmond. I also happen to be a consultant to Prologis, who bought the Hilltop Mall. And so this is really exciting. My kids and I grew up at Hilltop Mall. So I'm really excited about the opportunity that this presents to the community and to the city and to the region. Arto reached out to us, and we've kept an ongoing conversation with Arto and with your neighborhood council because Prologis bought this mall fairly recently, but they understand this is a long-term relationship with the city and with the community. And even though they're starting a process with the city, and Samita Thakral, who's here, is actually a Prologis, who's the manager of this project, who also lives in the Bay Area. We haven't gotten her in Richmond yet, but we're working on it. So, they understand this is a long-term process, but once you own this property, you're part of the community. And so Arto came and talked to us and said, look, it would really be helpful with the school up here if they could get backpacks to assist them. And Prologis really, without any hesitation, said, sure, we're happy to do it. How many do you need? Arto started at 100. Next call, it was 150. So I said, okay, stop there. Because I think it's going to keep going. But, and then he invited us and Prologis to come here tonight to present it to whoever. I guess at this point we're going to be presenting it to Arto. But Prologis is really going to be a great partner in the community because they are very community focused. And they're not just going to build and leave. They are going to own this mall for decades and decades to come. So Samita would be very happy to talk about where the process is and how they're thinking about it currently. I think it's better to come from her, but I just want to thank you, and we're happy to come back here at the invitation of the community whenever we can. I know, how many months ago? We came up here and presented to all the neighborhood councils. Some of you may have been there. So with that, why don't I bring up Samita Thakral, who's been great to work with. Samita will say a few words, and Arto, you can come up here and get your 150 backpacks.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Eric. Well, hi everyone. Thanks for being here today. I know you probably have better, more fun things to do. I have two kids who I gave dinner to and got here, and Eric's right, I don't live in Richmond, but I really do feel a connection with the community, or at least the beginning of one, because since we acquired the Hilltop Mall, we've had a few community meetings, we've talked a little bit about what we're planning to do there. And then, Arto reached out and talked about these backpacks, and Prologis as a company is just very committed to education, and we thought this would be such a fantastic thing to be able to support. kids going to school. I have 2 kids of my own. I have a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I know there's so many challenges in just getting them to school in the morning. So having a backpack should definitely not be one of them. So we're really, really pleased, and I hope that the kids are really happy using these backpacks, and it can support a really small part of their bright future. As Eric said, we're super excited about being the owners of Hilltop Mall. We're just getting started. We want to work with all of you to create everything there that this community aspires to see there. As a small start, we're having there's going to be a pumpkin patch there this Halloween, and then for Christmas, I think there's a Christmas tree area that's going to be laid out. So those are some of the interim uses, and then you'll also be hearing from us in hopefully a month or 2 with some design workshop type of thing where we can get some input from the community and then put that and work with our architects to come back with some options on what could be laid out there. So that's all I have to say. And once again, Prologis is really happy to be here.
I didn't get a chance to attend in the last couple of meetings that you had, but I'm here today. So what is the actual game plan with the mall?
So our plan is, our intent is to create a mixed-use development there, and it'll have a few different elements to it. Housing, I know that the community wants to see a grocery store, some logistics. It's going to be a combination of creating jobs, creating public spaces, so it's an active place where everybody feels like being there again, just like they did 20 years ago with the mall. So it's going to have a few different elements, and that is a lot of pieces of a puzzle. So it takes a lot of work to put that all together, and we just selected an architect who's been working on this for a few weeks. We will be connecting with the city of Richmond as well, because they're creating a specific plan for that whole area. So that's kind of where we are in the process. I hope that answered your question.
No, that did. Just curious.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I have another question. I had thought I saw a sign maybe like a year ago before the pandemic hit saying a Ranch 99 grocery store was going to open there. Has that plan since put to bed? Where is that in the works?
Yeah, that was a plan that the previous owner had to bring Ranch 99 here. We haven't specifically been talking to any one grocery store, so once we have a layout, we'll go out and talk to several of them, and that could be one of them. Yes?
I recall at your meeting about 3 or 4 months ago that you said that you were in negotiations and working with the Building Trades Council to make sure that the construction was all done using union labor. Is that still a go?
That is still a go. We're still, in conversations with them, and we'll keep engaging with them as the process goes. But very much all our projects across the Bay Area are union projects, so we are very big supporters of the unions.
Good to hear.
Yeah. So are you still looking for ideas for temporary uses until you start breaking ground, like flea markets and
We are, yeah. And actually, it's interesting you mentioned flea markets, because we have been working through Eric trying to see if there is a flea market operator that may be interested in having a presence at Hilltop, even if it's just seasonal or interim. So we'd love to hear any ideas or any relationships that anyone has here who can connect us to some kind of activating use that's community serving.
very good?
I may have missed something. Are you going to level the mall completely?
Yes,
And
that's
build
the
up
plan.
completely?
Yes, the only thing that stays is Walmart. They have a very long-term lease. So I don't know if they stay exactly where they are or we build a new structure for them, that's TBD. But the rest of the mall will go.
Any other questions?
So that's the game plan. So you're going to level the mall, you're going to
Yes.
level it out,
Yes, level it out and
Okay.
build a new neighborhood there.
and start fresh.
Yes.
Okay.
Why are we gonna level it out? You have some beautiful areas in the mall.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think what we'll do is, we do think there's a lot of history there that people cherish and remember. So I think what we'll do is we'll take certain elements of it and maybe have a memorial and some kind of art feature that has, you know, the art or something, the memorable pieces of the mall. But then there are also parts of it that have really deteriorated. You know, we can take you through it now, which are not doing that well. So we'll try to do that to preserve the memory of the mall for sure.
I'm sure people would like to know what type of time frame you think you're going to be using to break ground.
Well, the time frame is not at all in our hands, as you know, right? There's a process with the city and the council and the community. I would estimate it's going to take between around 2 to 3 years. I don't see us breaking ground before that.
For another 2 or 3 years?
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Somebody actually sound like downtown need to do their job, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, let's talk about it. That's why we're here, right? Let's talk about it.
Prologis would love to do
Get
it
off
sooner.
their ass and let's get it done, huh?
Absolutely. We're all for that.
So the reason it's going to take so long, and you're right, it relates to downtown, but there's been a desire by the city, not by Prologis, to go through a planning process with the community called a specific plan. And it includes the mall, plus some of the properties around the mall that they don't own. And so they want to go through a process with the community to come up with a plan that the community can buy into. Now, if they didn't do that, what would happen is Prologis could make an application to the city for a project that also would be the result of meeting with all of you and coming up with a plan. The city got $1.3 million in grant funds to do this specific plan. Wasn't our preference. We would, left to Prologis, they would probably submit a project certainly within a year in terms of working with the community, with a project that the community could support. But the city wants to go through this more prolonged process.
Long dragged out, huh?
What's that?
Long dragged out process.
Well, we agree. It wasn't our preference.
No, I completely understand.
Yeah, and you feel free to let them know you'd rather just take a different route. But the idea is that it's going to be very transparent. It's going to get you guys input as much as everybody wants to give input. And then at the end of the day, hopefully, when they move forward with a plan into the council, it's something that has at least a majority of the community supporting it. So, yeah, it shouldn't take this long, but unfortunately it's going to, it seems.
Thank you. Yeah. Any more questions?
You say you're gonna, put up new housing also? Can I understand that? New housing?
New housing?
Will go in that?
Yes, housing will be part of the plan. That's right.
As part of the plan?
Yes.
So just so you know, the plan has not been devised at all. But they're looking at what, the reason, and I know to answer your question about the existing mall, it's going to be a very different type of project because the old malls with the big parking lots are dying all over the country. And so the parking dependent malls that you're seeing that the Hilltop sort of represents are a thing of the past, unfortunately. And it's a lot of the reason is because we're all buying everything online. And so I know we are. And so as a result, there's a lot of focus on how these goods are getting distributed, which is what the business that Prologis is in. So they want to make sure that this project, by taking down the existing structure, you're going to have, think of it as a blank slate. You're going to have a whole new opportunity to create something much more livable over there, where you're going to be able to use the property in ways instead of just a big parking lot. And so there's going to be public spaces, there's going to be parks, there's going to be residential, and there's going to be retail, and then there's going to be office uses potentially. We're talking about trying to attract medical uses up here, additional medical uses with the closing of Doctors Medical Center, which I know a little about because I was on that board. There's a huge need for urgent care. There's a huge need for emergency room care. There's a huge need for a new hospital in Richmond. We don't know if we're going to be able to make that happen, but we're going to do everything we can to get the highest level of health care up here that we can possibly get, because we need it. You know, with losing that emergency room and Doctors Medical Center, it was huge for this community. So we're hoping to have, you know, some business, life science kind of uses up here. Make it a real, the mall's going to become a real community space versus just a shopping center. And when you have more people up here with the residential, so they're really doing something that hasn't been done before. You've never seen a mixed-use project of a logistics project with all these other uses. And they brought in, I'll tout them because I can, I work for them, but I'm a consultant, I'm not an employee. They went out and found a world-class architect out of New York who they put through a design competition and said, we're going to do something we've never done anywhere else in the country, or as far as I know in the world. And we're going to put you through a process to come up with something very unique for this property. So I'm going to be here, they're going to be here, we're all going to be here when this thing happens. I think it's something we're all going to be really happy and proud about. That's what I'm trying to help them do, which is what they want to do anyway. At the same time, they got to be able to make money at it.
I just wanted to let you know that if you feel like there's some skepticism in the room, that's because there is. The last owner, LGB, said the same things, and you know, the proof is in the pudding, and we look forward to seeing the pudding.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't work for LG.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, when you hear it all the time, you get desensitized.
Yeah.
And,
Understood.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Well,
we're looking
we
forward
hope
to
that, we hope we can change that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And hopefully everybody in this room can help with the process.
We're looking forward to engaging with everyone in the community as we move forward.
So since Don is videotaping this, then we should...
Yeah, in the meantime, I guess we should grab these backpacks for the principal.
And,
Two types there.
and give you a chance to...
I think the kids were two different ages, so we got
Yes.
some smaller ones for the smaller kids, and these
Mardo?
are just little.
But you come out here where you're don't have the podium blocking.
Oh, okay. Well, we've got two different sizes.
Yes.
One for the big kids, one for the little kids. There's 150 of them.
Yes.
So we want to thank Prologis for giving these to the kids, and I wish the principal was here to receive them, but unfortunately she wasn't able to make it tonight. So thank you from the principal.
I really hope that the kids enjoy using them and they're useful.
Yeah, and thank you from the members of our community, and thank you from members of the church. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Artem.
So in the meantime, again, one person possibly has COVID. Don't know about the principal. RPD shorthanded. They weren't able to make it. Rich, you have something you wanted to say?
We're going to talk about October, Carnival.
Yeah, we were going to, Prologis, as a matter of fact, agreed to do trunk or treat at the Hilltop Mall this year, which will be on Halloween night, 6 p.m. We intend to work with them and should be open to the whole city. So hope everybody that's watching comes out there Halloween night if you get a chance to see this. And once again, thank you, Prologis. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And I guess we'll see you next time. Thank you.